would agree with one particular policy. People hold divergent views. But you have to be able to know in your mind that, look, we're going to forge ahead and we're going to convince the doubters that this will work. We're just, what we're doing is, look, many people doubted the sincerity of government.
Yeah.
But I think we'll be in a better place if we give them the benefit of the doubt. Because supposing it works, then we're all better off for it.
What do we do about the perhaps legal impediments to conducting a referendum?
Yeah, I read an intervention by Olisa Agbakova, SAN, in which he proposed, relying on what Professor Nwabweze, SAN, had also said, in which they proposed a very, very novel way around the legalistic nature of of enforcing the recommendations. What they said is that, look, under Section 4, I think 2B of the Constitution, that the National Assembly has powers to legislate for the peace, order, and good governance of Nigeria. And that what the National Assembly would have to do would be to repeal the decree that brought into being the 1999 Constitution. I agree with that standpoint, because when the military were going, when they wanted to hand over to Obasanjo in 1999, they passed a decree giving life to the 1999 Constitution. Now, Olisa Agbakova and Professor Nwabweze, senior advocates respectively, are arguing that all that the National Assembly needs to do will be to repeal that decree and replace it with whatever forms the basis of a new constitution from the recommendations of the conference. I think legally that is achievable.
Or would they do that?
That is the question. Will they do that? But you see, where the political will is there. If, for example, the presidency buys into it, a lot of state governors buy into it, then I can tell you that it will be easier to get it done at the National Assembly. And mind you, you know, although most of the times we write off the National Assembly, there are also genuine patriots in their midst who also at that point, because remember, we almost had a constitutional crisis during the issue of the late President Yaradua, when he was incapable of carrying out the functions of his office, and we couldn't get round it legally to make the now President Jonathan the president. But, you know, people put heads together. The Senate came up with the doctrine of necessity, and we sailed through that process. So I believe that, you know, if we get to that stage, I think they might also be able to muster the needed numbers to pass it.
Well, as it is now, looks like we have this leap of faith going into the conference. A lot of people, well, once never thought it was going to make any meaning to them. Mm-hmm. But from the vibes you're getting from different people talking, especially from regional leaders in the country, do you think this will have a smooth ride or snowball into something we never bargained for?
Well, you know, only like a fortune teller would tell you, you know, what will happen when, because we don't even know what recommendations they are going to pass. So it's difficult to say whether some sections of the country will agree.
Because we're having an idea now, especially the talk about resource control.
Yes, yes. You see, it's down to the people, the delegates, to strike a compromise. It's a matter of give and take. The people who want more resource control, they have a legitimate case. So also are the people who are scared of giving them more resource control. It's just a matter of finding a consensus, them, which the key people in the conference can forge together. They can, I believe, you know, because when you talk to each other, it's easier to reach compromises, to reach out across the table, to say, look, we can't give you all that you want, but we're going to give you X, Y, Z in exchange for this. And I believe that, I mean, you know, nothing is impossible so far as the people there are sincere.
But again, the thing is, I've been thinking of the format. You mentioned the National Assembly, which you say is very, very important, and it truly is important.
Yeah.
And we have seen what they've done over time. But what kind of form will this kind of discussion take? You have an idea of what you would love it to see?
You know, this is not our first, no, neither is it our second conference. So I believe they will use the templates of old. You know, during Abacha, there was a much discredited one. During Obasanjo's regime, there was another one. And I believe even before 1979, there was a constitutional conference. So I believe those templates are there to guide everybody. What we're just trying to do, what basically people are looking for, is that one of the things is that, do we retain this form of government, this very expensive form of governance that we have?
What do you think?
Well, I think definitely we cannot, because if you look at what the economists say, when we're using about maybe 60, 70, or sometimes 80% for recurring expenditure, then definitely something is wrong. Because what we have is not enough for infrastructure. So we need to look at everything. It is too expensive.
Is that the case, sorry to cut you there, is it a case of not enough or a case of it being squandered?
I think, you see, look, you can never get enough. Even if the revenues quadrupled, you can never get enough. But what we need, I think, more is more prudence, smaller government, less recurring expenditure, so that we have money, enough money for development. There's no way we're going to break out of this cycle of poverty we are in with the amount of money being voted for capital projects.
Far too small.
It's too small.
And that has been the tradition.
Exactly. So do we keep repeating the same thing, knowing that it's not going to take us to where we want to go? Or do we look for other viable alternatives? That's one of the things I think the delegates should consider.
Because for the first time yesterday, I looking through some documents, I saw that, well, for instance, in Lagos State, they had more for capital expenditure than on recurrent. And I said, so if it's possible, why don't we replicate it?
Yeah, because, you know, look.
Or are we overdeveloped that we don't think that we needed to have more for that?
No, you see, it's if you look, for example, the Lagos State government really is it's the torchbearer for good governance in Nigeria. That's basically it.
But I think a number of states are coming on board too. Akwa Ibom has more capital expenditure than recurrent. So if those states can do it,
exactly.
Others
So you see, if they go to the conference, delegates from Lagos State can tell them this is how we're doing it.
And it's working.
And it's working.
Akwa Ibom can say the same thing.
Akwa Ibom can say the same thing. Other states who are on the right path to can share their ideas, so that then we look for a consensus. But definitely we need to look at the issue of whether, you know, the cost of governance is too much.
But were we better off when we had the parliamentary system of government in this country?
Well, when we had the parliamentary system of government, I was a baby, so.
Some of those who argue just.
But you know, to my mind, really, is not it's not either we go parliamentary or we go the presidential. It is to look for what works for us, what is right for us. Do we need at the center? Do we need a bicameral legislature? Do we need, even if we have a bicameral legislature, do we need full-time legislators? Do we need that amount of number of representatives? And then what is the remuneration